The Savage Hawkman, number 5, written by Tony S. Daniel and James Bonney, art by Philip Tan. We left off last issue with the end of the Maleficus arc, or whatever the heck his name was. I've already forgotten it. But it ended off with Hawkman seeing zombies walking around. And this issue picks up right there from where he left off, where he's walking down the street with Emma, and he just sees everyone around him as the undead. And he starts freaking out a little bit. He realizes, okay, if Emma isn't upset, then I must be hallucinating. This all has to be in my head. But despite it being in his head, his nth metal armor starts coming out to protect him. And he's like, oh, okay, can't have this happening. So he starts pulling away from Emma. But as soon as it stops. He sees everybody back as normal. And he's like, okay, all right, the nth metal's gone. Okay, we're good. But I gotta go. And he just runs away from Emma. He heads down the alley and he turns into Hawkman and he flies away thinking like, all right, is nth metal toxic? Is it in my body? Is it going to treat it like mercury and I'm just going to go crazy? Oh, I hope that's not the case. So then we cut to Greenwich Village, Digby's Rare Book Emporium. We're following Digby as he's just sitting around humming to himself, and then this scary voice speaks out calling for him, and he's like, hello, hi, I'd like to get a book. And Digby's like, what the hell? How'd you even get in here? And it turns out it's some ancient book of symbols and hieroglyphs that's just like gibberish. But the scary voice is like, oh, I can interpret a segment or two of this, but I need it deciphered. Please help me find the Mortis Orb, Mr. Digby. Your life depends on it, as he starts strangling the guy. Honestly, I feel bad for Digby here, but regardless, cut over to Hawkman. He's flying back to his apartment. And he lands, he gets all the nth metal off. He has a weird moment where he just talks to the pigeons. Okay? And as he steps in, there's this character, giant mohawk, tan skin, named Singh. We're treating him as if he's been a thing, been a character this whole time. I don't remember him at all. I feel like I'm not, but anyway, he walks into his apartment and Singh's there. And he's like, hey, this girl was calling for you. Mind if I call her up? She was a total babe. And he's like, not your type, Singh. Get out of here. And then he just leaves as easy as he came. Phone rings. It's Professor Ziegler. And Carter Hall has a job from Ziegler. Cut back to the book emporium, and Digby's bowing at the knees of whoever this guy is, and he's like, I did as you asked. What happens next, master? And he's like, good. Oh, once things go our way, you will be finally making a difference, Mr. Digby. And he's like, oh, I won't let you down, master. Again, not clear as to who this guy is. Cut back to Ziegler. Carter walks in and he's like, hey, is that the book you want me to check out? And he's like, yeah, totally. By the way, Emma said that you were acting weird. You all good? And he's like, yeah, totally. Just have a lot on my mind. So what's the book about? And apparently he thinks that it's some inspiration for H.P. Lovecraft's Necronomicon, but they're getting a huge cash amount if they can decrypt it. So, hey, worth a shot, right? And as soon as he cracks open the book, he thinks like, oh, this is a bunch of gibber. What? And he immediately sees this whole story of an ancient warlock who's able to wield weapons against like these apparitions that can phase between two different planes of existence, and he uses this thing called the Mortis Orb, which allowed the warlocks to vanquish the dead. And now it's just away. It's just lost to time. It was given to some stranger to take far away, and now it's just gone. And Hawkman's like, okay, this book is dangerous, and I'm going to check it out at home. Bye. But before he leaves, he gets the name of the guy who left it, which is Jim Craddock. And then we go back to Singh, who I guess is now just the guy at the computer. And he did the whole history check on Jim Craddock, who was a guy from the 1800s who came to America and met his fate at the end of a rope. And his nickname was Gentleman Jim. But the guy who actually dropped off the book was a guy named Digby, Darius Digby, who runs the bookshop, as we clearly know. And as they're going through all this, Carter's looking at the window, and he just sees all these faces in it, and the window starts to crack. So he dives onto Singh to protect him from the zombies or whatever, and then he looks back up, and the window's totally fine. He's like, crap, I'm going crazy. Dang it. And Singh's like, dude, what are you doing? He's like, sorry, gotta go. Gonna find Digby. So he flies off as Hawkman, lands at the bookstore, and just crashes in, and he's like, hey, Digby, me and you were going to talk. what do you know about this book? And he's like, look, I don't know nothing about that book. I dropped it off, but I literally know nothing about it. Man, why are you attacking me? And Hawkman's like, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, Digby. He's like, all I know is that guy wanted me to do it. The gentleman, yeah, sorry, he just calls him the gentleman. He wants me to crack it. And he's going to kill me if he doesn't get his dead hands on the Mortis orb. And at that moment, Digby looks even more terrified than before, and he realizes it's not he's not terrified of Hawkman, he's terrified of something behind Hawkman. And he turns around and sees these apparitions, these deadly figures. And as he starts to fight them, his mace just goes right through the apparition. But the apparition does manage to get a swipe on Hawkman, and he's bleeding, and he's like, thank God, I felt that, and I'm bleeding, so that must mean I'm not crazy. Whew, that's good. Anyway, let's go ahead and try to fight some ghosts. So as he's ready to start fighting against them, he's like, well, I can't hit you with my mace, so we'll see how this is going to work. But as he's about to swing, the gentleman steps in front, and he's like, oh, don't be in such a rush, Hawkman. Being dead lasts a very long time, ha ha. So, yeah, that's where we leave with the Gentleman Ghost. It's Gentleman Ghost. I'm like 98% sure it's Gentleman Ghost, who is a recurring DC character, I guess, prior to New 52, but now he's just the Gentleman. It's an interesting turn after the last one. The last one was so mired in sci-fi. For this one to go more in terms of sorcery and magic, it just feels a little bit strange of a turn, but if that's the way we want to go, I'm not opposed to it, so long as it's a good story being told. I'm not entirely sure that the link between seeing these apparitions and the zombie stuff is completely explained. Also, why Hawkman's seeing it at all. I'm going to assume nth metal, because everything is just nth metal, but no, it's okay. It's a fine thing. Art-wise, it's the same as it was before. Some of the characters' faces are really starting to be like, is that really what we're doing here? Like, they're fine when they're in costume, but as soon as it's just the blank character face, Carter looks really disproportionate in a lot of ways. I don't know how to explain it. So overall, I'm going to give this one a 6.5. I think it's good, but there's just a bit lacking right now, particularly in terms of how quickly this story was just thrown into like, and now we have Gentleman Ghost and Digby and Sing and okay. So yeah, 6.5. We'll see where it goes from here. Possibly up, possibly down. I don't know.